Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Jamie. I'm sure you probably already know that. Now, today we're going to be doing a bit of a layout update and sort of a plan for this year. Well, where do we begin? So, one of the things that I've recently mainly been focusing on is on Double O. It's a bit of a shame that I haven't really been able to focus on American stuff lately. Partially just because they're a bit expensive and, you know, especially for what I collect. I mean, I'm sure many of you have noticed I really love American Steam. The problem is American Steam is very, very, very expensive. I think one of the most recent purchases I did, and this was from Factory Direct Hobbies, set me back about 2 weeks worth of rent. So a lot of money. It's the SP and S E1. So I think 701. I think that's the one. So it's quite a big locomotive. It's like, even the box is huge, even for a steam loco. But one issue that you're probably going to realize is my layout is not big. All right. Now, for a lot of people, this would be technically a massive layout. I am very aware of that. Unfortunately, the reality is to run a lot of American Steam Loco, you simply need a lot more space. And I'm not talking the switches here. I'm just talking about your main line 484s, even 464 Hudsons. You know, they're actually quite huge. And combine that with the actual full train lengths, even if you cut them down by half, you're still looking at about like nearly 8 feet, right? And simply that's kind of a bit out of scale even for my layout. So kind of changed that. So I'm mainly focusing on Double O, where I'll be honest, the train sizes are a lot more manageable and all that. Now, what it does mean is I have sold off a lot of my American HO stuff. Now, what I'm talking about is mainly the Rapido Canadian unit and a few others. However, as a replacement, I have spent some money on things like Suncastle here. Alright, let's move him out the way, and Cock of the North. Now, you probably notice there's a BC Rail unit there. That's actually being prepped to be sent off to someone else. So, yeah, bit of a shame with what's happened with the Americans. However, I will kind of get into it a little bit later in this video. But let's sort of talk about what I've recently added in. So you can sort of see just in the back there, we got a couple new Pullman coaches, a new A4. It is a slightly older A4. It's the Hornby, where it's like the actual DCC sockets in the actual loco itself and not in the tender. A bit of a nuisance to actually get it, put a speaker in it, but I'll make it happen. A Class 71. Now, I will be honest, these things are near impossible to fit a speaker. I don't know how people do it. Because even if you mill stuff out, I've got no idea where you would even start milling. And obviously the two A2s. So we got Suncastle and Cock of the North. Now, what recently also I traded, and this was for an Amtrak GG1, was this other Battle of Britain class. Now, I do love the Battle of Britain. You know, as a kid, right, I'm sure many of you understand this experience, is, you know, you look through the magazine and go, oh my god, I really want one of those locomotives. You know, you see them in the catalogue. Battle of Britain was that thing for me. The other thing is a lot of recent actor scale, stuff has arrived. So obviously, I'm talking Class 31s. And one of the little shorts I made, and Class 89 Avo set. Nicknamed the Badger. Why is it nicknamed the Badger? I really don't know. And also I've got a turbo motive. It's a bit odd over there. I'll just move it in. Now, I don't want to put in the power just because there are some DC locomotives here, and I don't want to cause any issues. Oop, let's move that 31 a bit more and get it into... So we got a new turbo motive. This is the one with sound. I got a great deal from Rainbow Rails in the UK. Great packaging, arrived all well. Now, I couldn't really say the same for Suncastle there. It arrived in... yeah, it arrived as a mess. Bits were off in, like, you know, like the plastic casing when you get in the box. Yeah, not a great experience. So, I had to fix a few things there. I am also in the process of adding DCC sound to it. Now, I'm not very confident in cutting up tenders. I really don't feel comfortable doing it, and to be honest, I'm not going to start doing it on this one. I may do it on a cheaper loco, like I do have a T9 somewhere. I'll probably do it on that one, because I don't want to screw it up on something I really like. You know what, I'm sure you understand. So, instead of doing that, what we're going to do instead is cut out the weight, cut it by half. I've already done it in Cock of the North here, and so far, I mean, it hasn't fried, so I'll take it as a win. Sounds actually pretty decent, so I'm happy with that. Now, what is the plan for a bit more of this? Because you probably don't want me like talking about how much money I spent on myself for trains, right? I mean, everyone likes a little bit of it, but no one likes to boast. Now, I will admit, one of the things I did end up spending a decent amount of money on, but I need to get the decoder for it, is this little pannier. Now, it's a Rapido 94XX, yes. A slightly different Rapido than the one in America. Run by great dudes though. So, yeah, I'll probably end up ordering that straight after this, or whenever someone buys another CP rail off me. Now, what's the other plan in terms of for this year? Now, this is going to be a bit of a hint for what the plan is, but there it is. But I'm sure you can sort of see that, and that's a bit of a hint to what is sort of planned. Now, this layout is not getting trashed. I love this layout. I spent too much money on it, and generally, I love 00. I am not getting rid of my 00 for one other reason. It's quite simply, I like it a lot. It's, you know, what I grew up with. You know, I'm sure many of you sort of grew up with either getting lifelike sets for Christmas, or I guess a Marklin or Fleischmann, whatever. For me, it was the Hornby Flying Scotsman. I can't remember. I mean, I know you're probably all going to say, oh my god, you know, what a child. Then I think it was 2005 when I was like, 2005 or 6. I just remember being really, really young. It was given to me by my grandparents, and it's kind of why I really, really just kind of stick to Hornby. Now, that's kind of also one reason. Now, why am I starting N-Gauge? So, talking about, as mentioned earlier, about the issues with 00 being a little bit, more so the American stuff being much too problematic. Even if I add another 8 foot, it doesn't really solve the problem. Whereas in 00, I can still run actually kind of fun trains, you know, shut them around, all that. Can't really say the same if I want to run some of my locomotives. And I'm not talking, and I'm sure you can argue I can do that with the Jeep. Yes. The problem is that's not what I really want to run. I really want to run my T1. Or like my T1, my Challengers, or actually I don't have any Challenger, scratch that, my FEF, sorry, I've got 2 of them. Now, I am keeping them because I like them a lot, and to be honest, they kind of just look really cool. But they won't get the running in that they deserve. Now, as a way for me to actually get a nice like set that I can really run in, what I'm gonna do is build a N-scale set that I can sort of pack under my bed. This probably will be closer to my exhibition layout. Yes, I am hopefully gonna go to an exhibition. Originally this was gonna be it, but to be honest, there's a lot of issues that's kind of just a bit of a pain to make this an actual exhibition layout. It's a bit too heavy, things are a little bit too fragile, and yeah, there's a lot of things I want to do better on my next board, and I'm talking specifically the board itself because the board's too heavy. You know, I really picked really heavy woods. A lot of the placement of the bracing could be a lot better, and now, you know, this isn't my, so since I've done it twice, right, the third one, the N-scale set, should be a lot better. So I've already bought myself a little Kato set. Oop. So that's a bit of the plan. And also I bought myself a little Tomix. Now I do know that these things are a pain to convert to DCC, and I am planning to sort of do, and with whatchamacallit, with HO and larger, yeah, it's a lot easier to convert to DCC than it is for N-scale. So the plan is hypothetically to have a, where I can swap between DC and DCC, have a little cool nameplate, you know, caution, blah blah blah, make sure you switch over properly. So that's kind of the plan. I don't know when I will eventually enact this plan, but I will definitely record it. Okay, so one of the things I am going to do this sort of, update is, as you can probably see, we have no more scene, back scene. So I'm going to install that, I'm going to show you the difference, and I got to be honest, I think it really adds to it. Where is the box? This is what I am adding. So I'm picked a town scene. I couldn't find a city scene, sadly. And to be honest, I am sick to death about the rural countryside, because I mean, in honest to God, it feels like every layout is rural countryside in Australia or the UK. You know, it's very rare that you actually see a town or a city. So I'm hopefully going to do that with the N-scale as well. More focus on doing a little bit more built up, rather than something too super rural. Now, in terms of, you know, what I have planned in terms of new additions, in terms of planning for my N-scale layout, is I'll add it in. But I saw a really cool edit of the Senkai tunnels in Japan, and where it comes out the tunnel onto a viaduct. That is going to be, I'm going to try and incorporate that, so that's a bit of a new plan. However, this layout is not going anywhere, because honestly it is a joy to film. You have no idea how much fun it is just to have the little tripod, watching something like the Turbo Motive go past with a couple of coaches. It's just a joy. And one important thing that I will add is I am planning to finally add in a new station. The station platform kit has, I think it's arriving tomorrow, hopefully. Unfortunately, since it's coming from across the country, and I'm sure many Americans can understand, getting something from across the country takes ages, and it is a misery. So yeah, not fun. So it's kind of been a pain trying to get it across. So it's only been, I think, about a week and a bit. Still annoying having to wait that long, since Ozpost is pretty decent when it comes to when it's stuff like interstate or the next state over. It's pretty good at that. But when it comes to across the state, pain. So anyway, I will sort of add in those, and then we are going to add the back scene, and I'll show you how it looks. Okay, so I've got the new back scene up. Now, it's not perfect, but it'll do for now, because your next plan is to actually get wooden backing, and actually glue the scenic onto the actual wooden backing instead of sticking it to the wall. But it's actually a decent sort of look, and actually looks pretty good when you actually get down to a ground level. Now, as you can sort of see, it actually helps blend in the background and gives a sense of distance, I guess. And weirdly enough, at first I was a bit unsure of having it being matte, but actually, in some ways, it sort of gives it a little bit of a haze. Not too bad, pretty happy with that. Now, because I was very tempted to actually do the trade for this, what is this? So, what we have is Battle of Britain, Sir Archibald Sinclair. 159. Now, you have to understand what the C basically means. It's a Pacific, and it's in the, if I remember, the malachite livery with British Railways on it. So it's actually very, very early. Now we're talking about, if I remember correctly, basically straight after nationalisation, so about 1950s. Because after this, you'd basically get all of them in BR green. Now, if I can find Sir Winston Churchill, I'll showcase him, because I have another Battle of Britain, and you can sort of see the difference where I mean in terms of delivery. Let's transition. Now, this is Sir Winston Churchill. As you can sort of see, we've now got the power rating on the side, and we've also got the British Rail's numbering. So, to tell that it's a very easy Southern Region one, it's a 3. Which is a stark contrast to, in the background, we've got LNER, well, ex-LNER, so they would be numbered with a 6. But yeah, it's quite a beautiful locomotive, as you can sort of see. Now, what is very cool about Sir Winston Churchill is... Winston Churchill, not Sir Winston Churchill, is that this is the locomotive that was used in the funeral of Winston Churchill. Now, interestingly enough, my family was there. My grandfather, fresh in the Royal Navy at the time, was a member of, I can't remember, but lining the parade itself for the funeral. So this was one of those locomotives that I definitely had to get. Now, as you can also see, that's the early British Railways symbol, with it carrying the wheel. And then that's a later one, if I remember correctly. Oh, sorry, mistake. That's the late one on the Battle of Britain, and that's the early one on that A2. So, bit of fun there, but overall, that's kind of the difference there. Now what else? Now, as we turn our attention to something interesting that has happened on the layout, now I'll just transition to, you're probably going, is that overhead wiring? And you are very correct. Now, this is the Westfields Wagon Works wiring. Now, because obviously I'm not made out of money, and because this is meant to be a sort of trial, I wanted to see whether it worked, how it looked, and whether it was a good solution. So, what's my opinions of it? Quite simply, it's generally fantastic. You know, like when people sort of, a bit sort of watching a lot of YouTubers, and like, I don't know, have they been sponsored? Alright. Well, I wish Westfields Wagon Work would sponsor me sometimes. But no, actually, this is pretty cool. So, they're connected by magnets. Now, why is that a big deal? Traditionally, catenary, the stanchions themselves, is held on literally by screws. What does that mean? It's basically screwed in. So what that means is that if you do have basically a derailment, you can sort of see just in the corner there, That's the Pico. I can't remember. It's made by a German manufacturer, but you kind of get the gist. They're basically bolted into the thing. So if you do have a derailment or it's in a pretty crappy spot, you're kind of out of luck. Now, the overhead wiring, now that's also magnetic. So what you can do is basically, if let's say, something gets tangled or you're having a bit of issue, you can just stick it on and off. Now, if you're American, it might not be prototypical. Same with Australians. However, if you are wanting a basic look and functioning overhead wiring system, this is fantastic. Now, is this perfect for Britain? Yes, but it's very late. Now, this is on the the new electrification. I think it's the later. I think it's the one from the early 2000s to current now. So this is a modern design. However, it still broadly fits with what you're expecting out of Britain today, even back then. So it actually looks quite in place, and generally now it works. It actually works really well. The only issue I will mention, and this is more so if you're running the spring pantographs one. So what I'm talking about is if you have like a Bachmann GG1 or or one of the other Bachmanns where they have a spring pantograph, and we're not talking about the ones with the electrically operating ones. They're a different breed. I'll come back to them. What can happen is you put too much tension on the actual line itself. So what can happen is that you literally push it up. That's not a good thing. And what it also means is if you have a bit of a God, what's it called in real life? Basically where the pantograph drops down and then springs back up. What can happen is if it can spring up and actually get caught in the light. Not a good day. In real life, it's a very, very bad day. Terrible day. You don't want to be there. On a model layout, it's still a pretty crappy experience, I won't lie. Because what it means is you can rip off your actual pantograph, you can damage it, so not fun. But what is good about this design is because you're not physically soldering the actual line to the older style of those ones. What it means is basically when your pantograph gets caught, you're not going to damage something else. Basically, you're not just going to strip it off. But because there's a lot more give, and at the very worst, it'll just take off. And there's no permanent damage. So that's a really, really good thing. And if you do have a crappy thing of where it derails, you can just take it off. Because remember, these are held on by magnets. So that's a really cool thing. The only thing that isn't held on by magnets is the... God, Sydney Trains Training is going to be very disappointed here. I'm sure someone in the comments, but we're talking about this part, right? I can't think of it off the top of my head. Registration arm, that's it. The arms, what that means is basically they are glued in, but overall, so unless like you're slamming a pantograph in there and it gets really caught up, you're gonna have a good time. That's the worst case. That's the only thing that I could fault the system on. Even then, you can always add magnets or make it a bit stiff. So, yeah. So, what else has been a sort of improvement on the layout this year? Now, one thing I do want to work on is adding the second roof and lighting to the layout. Now, I'm just going to quickly lift up the tripod here, and you can sort of see what I mean. Now, I do want to add a lot more detail before I fully seal it in. Now, the issue is I don't want to fully cover it up, like the front here. So I just want to remove these two bits, That way it's a bit easier to access. So that's going to be a priority, and it's for the next few months because it's fairly easy to actually do. The other part is to actually finish up this town scene. This town scene definitely needs a bus stop. I will put that thing down that way. Then let's move the locomotives out of the way. So yeah, what it needs is a pavement, some buses, because it needs a train replacement bus. Why? Because why not? I mean, honestly, it's fun, it's railways. Railways always break down. I'm sure many of you have had the disappointing experience of turning up to the train station and going, oh god, it's train replacement buses, and it takes you millions of hours to get to where you want to be. And in it, or the worst experience is you've just had a fantastic night out, and now you have to get home by bus instead of train. That is a terrible experience. I wouldn't really wish it on anyone. And the worst experience is when you're on the night bus and everyone else is really, really drunk. Terrible experience. Wouldn't wish it on anyone. The only way it's tolerable is if you're drunk yourself. Otherwise, terrible experience. Would not want to wish it. So there we go. I'll add in some pictures of of earlier, what I mentioned. Now, I do want to talk about what's happening tomorrow, because I am filming this on the 13th. Tomorrow is Hornby's unveiling, you know, where they always like to hype it up and go, oh my god, look at what incredible stuff. So what am I betting tomorrow? Generally, I'm going to say it's going to be a streamlined King class. I think because for some bizarre reason, Hornby has this love of doing one-off prototypes that I think 3 people asked for. I'll be honest, look, do not get me wrong, I don't regret my turbo motor. I'm just puzzled why it exists. Because from someone like Hornby, alright, and I understand that's a very easy tooling, technically, right? Because the tender's already done. A lot of the upper body is also done, so it's really just modifying some parts of the shell. However, I like to say that, but the thing is, right? It's I'm just confused. So what am I going to predict for tomorrow? I'm going to bet a streamlined King class. Now, I'm going to insert a photo so you guys understand what the hell I'm referring to. That's what I mean, is you're going to notice Hornby loves doing one-off prototypes, because what it means, if you really want this one thing, you got no choice. You got to go to it. And because it's a rarer thing, you're not so much like, oh, I've got to collect a whole lot. That's really the case. That's why they have W1s. Right? Because, quite simply, no one else is going to make a W1s because Hornby's already made it. Right? It's the same case with a lot of American or European. There's only so much market you can pick. So, and when you do one-off prototypes, it's not worth doing something really, really rare. You know, it's just not worth it. You know, you'll never make the money back. So that's my prediction. We'll probably get some more BR Mark 1s. Maybe a new set of Class 43s. So the HST set. I'm going to say GNER, and maybe something brand new. You know, they've already done GWR, the 2 BR ones. So yeah, that's going to be my prediction. I do also think, we'll obviously maybe get a new Dublos. I don't know what it is, but I do think we'll start seeing more, Dublo locomotive. Now, the one that I would be really surprised is if Hornby does actually do a diesel that people want. What do I mean by that? I guess something like a retooled Class 67. Class 58 would be also on my list of if I make a Class 58, I will actually go down and buy it. The other one, which would be a... No, actually, no, scratch that. Yeah, to be honest, if it's just Class 58, Class 67, I mean, I'm not really fussed on Class 67, but if they did a Class 58, I'd buy that. Yeah. Now, I do want to make this quite clear because I am quite annoyed by this, right? Because this isn't really a British layout thing, but it is specifically about Hornby. Alright, it's these things. So you're going to be wondering, what is that? This is a Next 18 decoder. Now, I don't know why, but Hornby has decided to do a... I'm not really sure. I know they've made it specifically for the TT locomotive, but what it means is good luck trying to fit anything else. And I'm not talking like N scale here. I could understand why it might not fit N scale. It sucks because I can't fit it into any of my new locos. So here we have Rapido's 15XX, 1504 to be exact, in BR black with the late logo. I really like it. I want to get the DCC sound for it. It's already got a speaker in it. However, the HM7000 chip is basically 1.5 centimeters too big. That's a massive problem. And I'm still worried because I don't think that's going to fit into any other Next 18th locos. It's not because it doesn't work. It's simply because I can't fit it into anything. That's a crap experience. And I don't think, and I'm worried because what it means is basically these things are basically worthless unless you buy TT. So that really sucks. So what I've done instead is buy a 8-pin converter for this, and I'm probably going to put it either in one of the Battle of Britons, probably the green one, just because I think it looks cool, but it's also not one of my top dogs, if you know what I mean, because all the top dogs, they just get ESU lock sounds instead, because I'm thinking of putting in a nice lock sound for one of my Merchant Navy's Dublos and all the rest of my Dublos. Brilliant locomotives, and I think they deserve the best. So, yeah. That's really all for this update. That's a bit of a rant. I know it's a sort of a longish video about me just talking. But I hope you enjoyed it. If you do have any suggestions on what you're hoping that comes out this year, that'd be lovely. Because honestly, I want to see what people actually really want that the market hasn't provided. I know in the UK it's a bit of a different story because we practically got most locos, unless you're really wanting something from like before 1923 where the locomotives companies get grouped, you pretty much have free pick. I mean, if you had infinite money, it's free pick. And to be honest, most of them are fairly decently tooled. The only ones that I would say desperately need a new tooling is maybe something like the 58, which isn't a great tooling. The 35 and the Hymex also not too good. And yeah, that's really it, to be honest, because Bachmann has pretty much done most diesels. There's going to be a new Class 44 and 46 from Helton. And yeah, like all of the Type 5s, 56, 55, 50, 59, 52 and the 50s, they're all really nice detailed, and generally can't really fault them, can't really see where after Acura scales 50 and 55, you can't really make it that much better. And same with all the Type 4s, I can't really think of anything. Same with the Type 3s and the Type 2s. Yeah, we pretty much has a brand new tooling for all of them. Now, I would say, out of all of them, I would like there to be more Mark 1s. I know it's an odd choice, but a definitive Mark 1, like the Corridor sets, not the Suburbans. I'm not really that fussed about Suburbans. That would be really cool. Now, if you are going to see any sort of new trains, I guess, it will be forms of the EMUs and DMUs. The PEP units, I think 313s and 314s have been made. So I guess it's going to be some of the AC ones or the DC third rail stuff. But I think most of them have been covered at this point. So I'm curious to see what new toolings we might see that aren't small shunters or all that. So I'm pretty excited for that. I'm still hedging my bets on it to Streamline King class. I'll definitely laugh it if it is. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed me. I don't know, what is that? Nearly 40 minutes? We'll see. I've got to edit all together, so we'll see how much it goes by. Put on a pretty thumbnail, but yeah. Give me your thoughts. Even give me suggestions on what I should have a look at. Maybe even some of the N-Gage stuff I'd have to have a look at. But yeah, overall, have a good night. I'm off to play around with my new Kato. This is it. EF65, I think. So I'm off. Have a good night, good morning, or wherever you are. Have a good day. Alright, see ya.